Everyone, is Jacob again with another video that hopefully helps those of you that are interested in learning to speak Samoan learn to speak it better. So today I thought I'd put together a really quick and short video just in terms of a tactic that you can start applying if you're serious about learning to speak Samoan, and one that certainly that I use in order to be able to speak Samoan, but I think a lot of successful language speakers end up using even if they don't know what to call it or if they think that there's a name for it. And again, just for those of you that haven't watched one of these before, basically I'm trying to make these short little videos that introduce Samoan grammar and Samoan language concepts, particularly to those that are coming from an English speaking perspective that want to learn Samoan. And I'm particularly thinking of that there's a lot of second or third generation sort of Samoan speakers in English speaking countries, whether it be the US or Australia or New Zealand, that makes it disconnected from their language and their culture, and it might be difficult for them to pick up the language just based on them coming from an English-speaking perspective and their family and friends that do speak Samoan. They didn't learn Samoan that way. So I'm hoping that this is helpful in that regard, and potentially could be helpful for any other English speaker that just has an interest in learning Samoan as well. My background is I served as a missionary in Samoa, um, and I learned to speak Samoan when I was, around 19 years old. So as an adult. Anyway, with that being said, today I want to introduce this concept of speaking your language. This is um, a terminology that was at least common in practice when I taught at the Missionary Training Center for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, otherwise known as LDS or Mormon. And I'll basically cover the concepts that are there and some of the things that make those missionaries that maybe some of you have interacted with be successful in learning a new language, someone. So today I'll talk about the introduction to what we'll term as SYL. I'll talk a little bit about, hey, what are some of the things that maybe are already in your toolkit, and then I'll give some examples of what this means. Again, this is just a short video. Hopefully that gives you something to implement in your practice. So what SYL means is speak your language, and what the concept really is everything that you learn. So if you watch a new video, or if you talk to a friend, or if you are part of a Facebook group, that you start trying to use and implement those concepts in your everyday speaking. Now, obviously, if you try and say this to someone that has no interest in learning someone, it's not really going to be helpful. So ideally, you've got some kind of accountability partner or group that you're learning to do this with. So the idea is that you're putting into practice these concepts and you're using them as much as possible, and you're really pushing yourself to try new things that go beyond what you thought you could communicate. Like someone might, you might think of like, oh, I wish I could say that in Samoan, but if you don't try to actually use the language that you've got to convey those meanings, you won't really push the boundaries of your understanding, and you won't really know what the next area is that you need to improve on. And so what really I would encourage here is if you just learned a whole bunch of new nouns in Samoan, but you have no idea how to use verbs or how to do a lot of other things when it comes to grammar, etc., you can mix them. When you're talking to your Samoan speaking family or friends, you can start putting in these Samoan words, and you can tell them like, hey, look, I'm going to try and learn this language. The only way for me to do that is to start trying to use it, and you might get made fun of, and you might say things wrong, but through all that feedback, you're actually going to get a lot better. So you do kind of have to be humble. You do have to be vulnerable, and you've got to be willing to try stuff, and you've got to be willing to get it wrong, and for people to call you out on it being wrong. So hopefully that makes sense. But this concept, this practice is critical to anyone wanting to gain fluency. Just think about a kid. A kid does the same thing. They learn little by little, and they just use whatever it is that they learned, and they build their language capabilities over time. And it's surprising how quickly they can do that. But at the same time, it's because they're working hard at it. Really, they're trying all the new things they've got in their toolkit, and pretty soon they're surprising people by how well they can speak. So the same principle can apply to an adult as well. So I thought I'd just review, at least with the videos I've currently posted, and you may have more, or by the time you watch this, maybe I've posted more videos, but I think I've at least put enough out there to advocate that, hey, there's actually a lot of material that you probably at least have at your disposal. So from a grammar perspective, um, there's a video I put out around nouns, around pronouns and possessive pronouns, around verbs and adjectives, prepositions, what I'm calling demonstratives, which are kind of, well, I won't get into it here, but like it means this and that, those kinds of things. And then certain select situational sort of phrases that you can learn. So you've got quite a big base to build off of. And then when it comes to grammar in particular, um, there's a video that I put out there on how to connect nouns together to create noun phrases, which is a sentence in Samoan, where you're comparing nouns or relating nouns together. I've also put out videos doing simple sentence structures or simple verb sentence structures or emphatic pronoun sentence structures. And again, I kind of put the formula there to refresh, but that's basically you use your tense marker, then you put in your verb, then you put in your noun or your emphatic pronoun, and then potentially you could also put in your directional word and an object to that sentence. So there's a video on that sentence structure. There's another one around descriptive pronouns, and you guys can read the formula there. So I just want to say, like, that's not a bad foundation. You can say a lot of different things with just those components that I named there. And so you've got enough to start doing SYL. So I guess moving on, I want to just kind of give an example of SYL. And sometimes, I hope this isn't offensive. I didn't know it was an offensive word, but sometimes I like to say just fob out, meaning mix it up. Fob means fresh off the boat, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, so I apologize if that's how it comes across. But the point is, you want to be using as much Samoan as you can. And if you are drawing a blank or you just don't know how to construct a certain part of the sentence, and after you've tried to use the stuff that you've got, go ahead and mix it with English. That's not a big deal. People do that all the time without even thinking about it. You can do the same thing, and it'll help you get practice in actually speaking Samoan. And especially if your accountability partner is either A, learning Samoan, or B, is already a fluent Samoan speaker and an English speaker, they're going to be just fine, and they'll understand it. And to be honest, it's probably kind of funny. So, as an example, you might want to, mix your English words into a Samoan grammar structure. So, for example, "Wa'alu in a store." I probably would even say store. "Wa'alu in store." So, in this case, you may not know the Samoan word for store, but you can use a simple verb sentence structure to say, "He went to the," now that I don't know in Samoan yet, but I do know in English. "Wa'alu in a store." "Wa'alu in a concert." He went to the concert. "Wa'alu in a," yeah, yeah, something else. "Wa'alu in a beach," right? So you can plug in your English word where you're just kind of stumped as to whatever the Samoan word might be. Another one, "Ilanu black lana umbrella." Well, in this case, I guess the person didn't know the word for black, didn't know the word for umbrella, but they used what they did have, which is, again, kind of using that simple verb sentence structure. "Ilanu black lana umbrella." "Hotele no." And again, you have to watch some previous videos to have any of these make sense, but basically what you're acknowledging here is that you don't know the word for no, but you can negate a verb by putting le in front of it, and you can use your verb sentence structure to convey all this. "Hotele no." In Samoan, you'd actually say "Hotele no," but if you didn't know the word Iloa, you can put "Hotele no." Um, so the other thing is you can also make some good use of some of these, I think, high impact, kind of very flexible words. So the ones that come to mind for me are the word mea, which means thing in Samoan, the word fai, which is kind of to do, to make, to fix. It's a verb that you can kind of put into a lot of different places, and then demonstratives, meaning kind of this, that, those kinds of things. You can get by with a lot by using those words really well. So, for example, "Salato failimilia," or I guess, hold on, the thing I wrote on the slide was "Salato failimilia." That kind of translates to they did that thing there, and granted, that means nothing to us because we don't have the context, but in a certain situation, a lot of people actually know what in the world they're talking about. Fi is kind of this very general type of verb. Mea means like thing, just like it does in English. So it could be any noun that you may not know the word for, and you can actually get across a lot. Like for example, you know, in my first example, algo in a store. Well, you didn't know the word for store. You may have been able to get by with saying algo in there, and then you could point to the store. You went to the thing, or you could say, if you didn't know the word for the store, but you did know the word for building, like fale, you could say algo in fale lale. He went to the building over there. Well, hey, that's just as good. I mean, it's not the word store, which is funny more, but you're going to get your point across. And what I'm trying to say is, this is really going to help you practice. It's going to remove the excuse that you have that, oh, I don't know how to say that, and so I'm just going to say the entire phrase in English. Well, you're not going to get any better by using that excuse, and that excuse is just you could apply it everywhere to the point where you would never try and speak. So this is what I would encourage everyone to do if they're really serious about this. You set aside time, ideally on a daily basis, but at least on a regular basis, with someone who is going to do it with you or is willing to help you. And you say like, look, I'm gonna for the next hour, I'm gonna just do everything I can to find out. I'm gonna use all the Samoan I have, and I'm gonna be asking you questions about like, oh man, how do you say that in Samoan? What is the Samoan word for whatever it is? And you can start um, really building your vocabulary, building your level of comfort with speaking Samoan, and you will feel stupid, I think, at first, and you'll be like, oh man, I sound bad, or I don't sound like the other people that are talking, or wow, I didn't understand what they said, and that's okay. Why would you understand, or why would you sound so perfect? Because you're just learning. So anyway, I really encourage you to do this. Again, you definitely need someone to be able to practice with. Um, one thing I forgot to put on here is a friend of mine and his wife put together a Facebook group. So if you go on to Facebook and you search Learn Sound One for Beginners, I think it's a private Facebook group, but I mean, if you just request to be added and just say, hey, I'm trying to learn Sound One, they've got a big community there of people that are interested in learning Sound One. Um, the guy Devin, he was a Samoan speaking missionary like I was. I think he served in New Zealand. His wife is actually from Samoa, so they both obviously speak great Samoan. And they're going to be putting out content as well. And it's also potentially a great community. So if you don't know anyone or that can speak Samoan, but you need someone to kind of do this SYL activity with, maybe it's an opportunity to connect with people there. So I highly encourage you guys to go check that out. Really great resources. I think they're kind of doing the same thing. They understand that there's a need for helping folks that are coming from an English perspective learn to speak Samoan. So I really encourage anyone who watches this to go check it out if you're not already a part of it. Anyway, with that being said, I hope this was helpful, and take care until the next video.